Bally 8 Ball. All right, yeah. So watch the LED. It'll get an initial flicker, and then two. We'll count the flashes. There's one flash, two flashes, and then it stops. So that means that this chip right here or its socket is bad. You see, this battery causes corrosion problems, and they kind of outgas, and the gases sometimes eat up the sockets or the chips. So the stuff, all like these three chips, are always like suspect to be problems on this game. When you get the battery mounted. That's why I don't usually keep the batteries there. I mount them off the board, so if the batteries take a crap, it doesn't screw up the boards. New RAM. 1, 2. Nah, so it's a socket.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, that's okay. We can replace the socket.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a huge deal. It's pretty common. Again, it's in that corrosion area. Definitely the socket. Pry up the base. Look at the pins. Are just, you can see them. They're all shot. They're really shot. I mean, they're all corroded and broken. That one's broken. That one's broken. That one's broken. That one's broken. These other ones that aren't broken are they're just gone. Look, this side is, the top side's nice and shiny.
Yep, I see that.
This side's all gray. I mean, it's pretty sick. So we'll get you a new socket, and then maybe your old chip is good. But with the pins out, cleaned up with a wire brush and a little sandpaper, and then I'm gonna like clear coat it with a little of this stuff just so the corrosion doesn't come back. And I'm gonna put a new socket in. A little fingernail polish on there just so the corrosion doesn't come back, and I'll solder my socket in. Remote mounted our battery. New socket. That's the original RAM chip. Let's count the flashes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So definitely a bad socket. And we have score displays. We'll check some other stuff too, but basically you're up and running. Solenoid driver board, standard modifications between the two 5-volt test points, the 12-volt filter capacitor to ground, the high voltage filter capacitor to ground, just standard stuff. Check the header pins, had to resolder a few of those. I tested all the transistors. They all appear to be good, and we're ready to put this back in. Solenoid driver board back in. On the rectifier board, I always redo some of the connector pins. On this lower long one, this orange wire, which brings the 12 volts up to the solenoid driver board, these two outside ones, always redo those. Really what you should do is all the big fat thick wires, because those, on these two connectors, on this connector and this connector, I always do these two outside ones, and probably the other 4 is also a good idea. On this plug here, you don't have to do any. This is pretty much the input voltages from the wall and some other stuff that doesn't draw a lot of current. So this one you can pretty much ignore. Now I remove this connector from the MPU board, turn the game on, and using the meter, check all the voltages. And just in case you made a mistake, you don't want to send a high voltage down to the CPU board. So having this connector off doesn't power the CPU board, and could save yourself some trouble. So up here, I'll check 5 volts up here, 12 volts up there. On this big transistor up here, I'll check for 175 volts. And then we can power the game up with all the connectors on. Okay, so here we go. I love how this thing just... that light went out. I'm gonna fix that light. But man, the flippers on this thing are just to die for. I mean, they're just powerful. So gotta fix that light, but other than that, we're good to go.